MLR round number 9, folks. Apologies again. This is a touch later than I would like, but yeah, I finally got round to catching up on some of the games. Also, my man Alan, who sent me literally every MLR jersey I have, has sent me another package, which is sitting just over there. So check out the monthly video, which I'll be probably recording today as well, because I'm sure there's a few more MLR jerseys in there, which is awesome. Some pretty entertaining ones this week. I've caught up on all the highlights. The only one I watched in its entirety was the Freejacks and NOLA, which actually ended up being a fantastic choice because it was a really, really good game. But yeah, we'll go over some of the key events, the standings and whatnot, and you guys can let me know your thoughts. As always, if you're new to the MLR, check out the Rugby Network, which is probably down in the description. It's a free site where you can watch the games live or on demand. Pick a team. Probably not DC at the moment because they keep losing. Dallas are the new boys, also keep losing. If you want a new team, an underdog, that's probably a good team for you. But you know, at the moment there's a few teams in contention, and yeah, it's a bit of fun. The first game is Utah and San Diego. Utah are on a bad run. I think, don't quote me on this, but someone confirm it in the comments. I'm pretty sure Utah sacked their coach, right? I think I saw that on Twitter. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, that's not been the best season for them. They were a playoff team last year, and they've got a record of 2-6 now, which is not where they want to be. And it's another big loss for them. 40 points to 25 at home, which makes it particularly hard to swallow. Remember, Utah is one of those few grounds in the States which has actually got the altitude advantage as well. So, yeah, it's been too easy for other teams to come in and get results. Exchange of penalties early, 3 points apiece, 6-3 to Utah. But then the San Diego forwards, Tamilau goes over to make it 10-6. Basson has a field day. Former Springbok Bulls player. Yeah, he's having a field day. He gets one down the right wing. He gets a double not long later, and then he gets a try assist later on as well. So by halftime, it's 24 points to 11 to San Diego, but they push that lead out to like 31-11. They do get opened up by Utah before the end of the game, but San Diego, by that point, they've got the bonus point in the bag. They're happy to take the shots at 3 just to kind of see the game out without too much risk. So final score, 40 points to 25. Yeah, San Diego is certainly looking pretty solid. 5-3. They're second in the West. Utah are sixth in the West. They're on the bye, which is probably a good time for them to kind of reset because, yeah, it's not been that good. Whereas San Diego, they are home to AG, which is going to be pretty massive because AG are first in the West. So it's going to be first up against second. The next one, Toronto up against ATL, the Arrows. I think they'll be pretty disappointed, man. Finally back in Ontario. And they lose. They've been good on the road. They've got this winning record. And then they finally get back home for the first time to actually play. They've played one game in Canada, but it wasn't in Ontario. It was out in Western Canada, I think. Yeah, they lose this one to ATL. Admittedly, a pretty good ATL team. But yeah, just happy to see them back home, to be fair, after such a long absence. If you're not familiar with COVID, the entire last season, because they're the only Canadian team and the travel was restricted, they didn't play any games at home. They played the whole season in Atlanta. And then, obviously, with the weather in Canada being a bit colder, they've started their season with largely away games to wait for warmer weather to head back home, and they finally get back home, and they lose, which is a pity. But at least the crowd got a close game, only 6 points in at the end. Another one where they kind of exchanged penalties. ATL had a 6-3 lead at halftime, which is pretty low scoring. Second half opens up a bit. Basically, the whole Toronto team got into a maul. Not quite, but the majority of them got into a maul to make it 11-6. They did miss the conversion. But then Toronto had a yellow card. ATL punished them from close range, and then another one from a maul made it 20 points to 11. A Toronto penalty on 74 keeps it alive, but they can't get it done at the death, so the crowd go home unhappy, I'm sure, but losing bonus point and back home at last. Fingers crossed they can turn things around at home. Then maybe it's almost like an away game for them, and that they're not that familiar with playing at that ground. It's been so long. Fourth in the West are Toronto. They're home to DC, who are winless, so they'll be looking to bounce back from this defeat with a win. And ATL are away to NOLA, ATL are second in the East at the moment. Speaking of NOLA, that's the game I watched, thinking that this high-flying New England team, who've only lost one game, would probably go and give NOLA a bit of hiding. But if not for a denied try, New England would have lost this one at home. So, yeah, proper crazy game. Very entertaining. The first try for New England was a bit lucky. I mean, Bodine Waka puts through this kick and the bounce is just crazy. So if not for that wicked bounce, they probably don't score. The second one comes from a Waka kick, and that one's actually, just to be fair, a pretty good high catch. They got a 12-0 lead early. They almost got another one, but it was held up and there's a dropout. So, yeah, it's kind of all New England early. It looks like I'm thinking I've picked the wrong game to watch because NOLA's not going to be able to compete with New England, especially away from home, especially when Van der Bunck gets one from the kick return. So 19 points to 0. But then that guy Elof, the fullback for NOLA, had one of the best games you'll see from an individual, man. He gets a line break on 31 minutes to set up Pepperschmidt, I think his name was, or Depperschmidt, the winger. So it's 24-5, so at least it's a little bit of game on. And then, it's 19-5, but then New England get one before half-time to make it 24-5. So it's still looking like a bit of a hiding. Second half, though, Elof, another line break. And I'm saying, like, this guy was involved in basically every good thing that that NOLA were doing. He sets up the scrum half. Stevens to make it 26-12. More NOLA pressure. Elof run, offloads. They finish it, make it 26-19. I wrote the note, comeback, ? Because they're right back within game on. And then they get a maul try through Duplessis, who's the 12, I think. I don't know what he was doing in there, but either way, he's credited with the try, so it's 26 points apiece. These guys were dead and buried, and yet they come back into this one. They even went in front with a penalty, but literally from the restart, no sooner had NOLA taken the lead that from the restart, New England gather it, and they get it to DeVitt, the prop, who goes over for a try. So it's 33 points to 29. NOLA were knocking on the door for ages. They get held up. New England get a deliberate knock-on, yellow card. And NOLA looked to punish them with some wide ball, but it gets TMO'd for a forward pass, and it does look forward. So NOLA brutally robbed of this comeback, but I mean, I say robbed, but it's just a tough one for them. New England are a really tough team, but they'll be looking at themselves and know that they got off a little bit lucky because they absolutely let NOLA back into this game. So, yeah, crazy. Really good watch, though. I'm really glad I watched that one. That was just thoroughly entertaining stuff. New England are first in the East, fifth in the East for NOLA. You can see the different records, 7-1, 3-5. New England are home to Seattle, who are on the bye this week, and NOLA are home to ATL. So, yeah, honestly, that one, if you want to start with the MLR, you could do worse than watching that game, which was a bit of entertaining one. The markings on the field might bother you, though. It initially bothers me whenever you see the markings for other sports on the field. It's just one of those things. New York and DC, it's probably closer than what we expected. 35 points to 31. New York, one of the top teams over a winless DC side, who are, I think, improving week on week. DC are legit looking better. I've been looking forward to the fact that the Jackals and DC are going to play each other at some point soon. Right now, I'd be back in DC because they look to be tracking really well, but we get on to Dallas in a second. To be fair, it's another game where there's a big lead, 14-0 for New York. Windsor gets one. So you're 14-0 after not that long. DC managed to come back on around about half an hour to make it 14-7. And then Douglas, I think he's the 10 for DC. Like, he shouldn't be able to score the try that he scores. It's just like, I don't know, it's like watching a kid's game where there's that one kid that nobody seems to be able to tackle. I don't know how he got through. It's weak defending from New York. It's scandalous defending. But, yeah, missed tackles galore, and he goes through. So 14 points apiece. Seems like a decent comeback. New York retake the lead before half-time, 21-14. DC Maul at 21 points apiece. Another lead for New York on like 57, 28-21. DC reply, make it 28-26. So proper tit-for-tat stuff in terms of the way the game was going. But then New York get another Maul one Sal on 70 minutes gets DC back in striking distance, so it's a crazy game, but New York are able to hang on. So that's promising for the league, that a winless team can push a team with a very positive record to within a score. It shows, I guess, that there's teams tracking in the right direction, and the teams that are up above aren't untouchable by any means. That's pleasing. New York are third in the East. They've got LA away next. So that'll be an interesting one because they've got similar records. And DC are away to Toronto. DC are last in the East. They are sixth, kind of. Not too surprisingly. The last two, LA and the Dallas Jackals. You got to remember, if you didn't know, I don't know a heck of a lot about it, but I know there's been an off-the-field accident which injured several of the Jackals players. Was it like 9 or 7? A bunch of guys, I think it was like a building issue where some stuff fell on them. Don't quote me on any of that. I'm not 100% sure, but I know there's been an accident which has ruled out a bunch of their players. So a winless season gets a wee bit harder having players out. But yeah, 47-7. That's a proper hiding. I don't know, man. Lesage gets one. It's 14-0. Trainer gets the try assist for that one. Dallas missed the penalty on 14 minutes, but then got a try. Not long later, Carlson with the cross kick to make it 14-7. At least that seems like game on. But, man, the LA forwards get them. The backs get them. I don't know what else to say. But, yeah, LA just kind of ran riot over a weakened Dallas team. So that's not the kind of game you want to see just in terms of the scoreline. You'd much rather watch ones like this that were kind of tight. But as I said, LA's at home. Dallas are the new team without a bunch of players. It's been a disruptive week. It's maybe not too surprising. But, yeah, fingers crossed everyone who was affected by that accident gets back well soon. But, yeah, certainly not Dallas's week. LA are third in the West. Remember, they're the reigning champions, so they'll be looking to get some consistency to make sure they make the playoffs. They're home to New York, so it's going to be a crunch game. Dallas are away to Houston, so it's an all-Texan affair between those two. And Houston are kind of a bit unpredictable, so we'll have to wait and see. Remember, Dallas and Houston went close earlier in the year when it was the Dallas guys at home, but Dallas are seventh in the West, kind of unsurprisingly. The last one, a similar scoreline, but I'm not sure what Houston's excuse is. I know AG are one of the top teams, but 43-5. It probably should have been closer than that, man. Mac Mason was running right. He got a try early. Van Fake got one for Houston in reply, but that was their only score of the game. And then AG are just able to get try after try. Lawrence got yellow carded for AG, but they didn't concede any points during that time. He's the scrum half. Halftime at 17-5, so not a blowout, but second half maul, 24-5. AG get a penalty try through the forwards. Dominguez gets a double. So it's not just the forwards, but yeah, man, it's 38-5. AG get another one, 43-5. What can you say? That one's just a proper hiding. So yeah, Houston are the kind of team who are just really inconsistent at the moment, and I guess that's reflected in their record with 4-4. Some weeks they look the business, and other weeks they just kind of look really average. So not quite sure what's going on there, but as I said, they're home to Dallas next, so they'll be looking to bounce back and get that positive record, keep their playoff hopes alive. They're fifth in the West at the moment, so they need to catch up a couple of spots. AG are first in the West, but as I mentioned, they're away to San Diego, so that's going to be 5-3 against 6-2. That's a proper battle on the cards as well. So yeah, interesting round of games. As I said, I'm pretty pleased. I watched the one I watched. I'm glad I watched a 33-29 game with a denied late try instead of like a 47-7 or a 43-5. But yeah, we'll see how some of these beaten teams go next week. And as I said, we've got some of the top teams up against each other as well. So we'll see how things go. You guys let me know your thoughts on the games. And yeah, I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.